Hello and a warm welcome to Personal Finance. I'm Gugulethu Cele. Joining me tonight in studio is Sydney Sekese, who is a certified financial planning professional from the Financial Planning Institute, also referred to as FPI. Now, if you have a child or happen to be someone who's under the age of 30, then you might want to come a little bit closer to the television and turn up the volume, because today we're talking about financial planning advice for millennials, especially given the unchanging dynamics that they face from a financial perspective. How do we ensure that millennials set themselves up for financial success, not only in the short term, but in the long term? Now, Sydney, that's why you're here this evening. Thank you so much once more for coming through, as always.
Thanks.
Let's get down to understanding millennials. I understand it's individuals, between the age of 33 or 35 and all the way down to about those who might be 15. But these are a dynamic group of young individuals. You know, they like living life on the edge. They're constantly exploring and want to do things according to their own rules. So does this make them a different group of, or different kettle of fish, as they say, for you to deal with as a financial planner?
Yeah, for sure. I think they tend to acquire goods at all costs, and they don't take any consideration in terms of financial planning, and they tend to like to do things themselves. They believe in DIY. So give them an app to do anything. They will plug in information and expect it to produce results. So they've got also information overload, and they often make decisions prematurely, and often not take look at the bigger picture. So as a result, I think they do need some kind of guidance when it comes to financial planning. There's a tendency right nowadays of robo-advice, and robo-advice, yes. It's more the use of apps to assist them in providing financial products. So I believe even with the incoming robo-advice, they still need that personal touch of a certified financial planner.
Let's talk about that then, the rate and uptake of technology as an avenue for financial advice for millennials, though, because they're still starting out and really trying to gain ground when it comes to being financially secure. Are we finding innovative ways to really see results from these mobile apps or even robo-advisors that they speak to?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for financial advisors to really tap into that era, but I still believe that eye-to-eye contact is still necessary, because these millennials they usually tap into these robo-advice with less knowledge, and there's not much due diligence that comes through. So a certified financial planner would assist in ensuring that the underlying products are in line with their, or customized to their needs.
Exactly.
Yes.
So talk us through a meeting. If a millennial had to walk into your office and say, I need financial advice, where would you start with that kind of individual? And this is assuming that perhaps they're 25, unmarried, just started working, looking to acquire some assets in the form of a vehicle or otherwise. God goodness, where would that conversation start? Because there's so much to touch into.
Yes. A typical millennial would have a student loan, and they would want to acquire that first car. Which
might be a German sedan.
Of course. And with them, the latest fads is the greatest thing in them. So they would want to have the latest apps, the latest smartphones, and the latest investment products. And the latest investment product is in the form of the highest performing fund. And usually a millennial who chooses a high-performing fund would be disappointed the next year, because usually the high-performing fund this year is not necessarily a high-performing fund next year. So conversation would sit down and say, let's prioritize, start reducing your debt. Let's look at your loan, your student loan, if you have one. Do you have credit cards? Let's see the extent of your debt, and prioritize your financial goals.
How often does that happen? Perhaps if I can jump in there, because we know with millennials as well, to keep up with the fashion trends and to keep up with having the latest phone, there's store accounts on end, there's that credit card that's been tapped into one too many times. Is that quite prevalent with millennials?
It is prevalent. Millennials are usually regarded as spoiled, because they've got a great relationship with their parents. So the parents often spoil them by paying off their debts. So they don't really have that experience of heavy debt, because they know that big mommy and big daddy will help me reduce the debt. So I think the challenge or the lesson that they need to learn is to be independent, because sooner or later the parents would also be unable to be the big brothers or the big daddy. Very true. Yeah. So the tendency is that they still rely on their parents, and it's about time that they become independent and prioritize those debts. And once that the debt level has been reduced, have a culture of saving, and saving for a goal. You know, don't just save for the sake of saving, or you've had your friend is busy with a saving plan. And once you go into the savings plan, have an investment goal in place. And investment is all about time, that short-term goal, medium-term goal, as well as a long-term goal. And a long-term goal is like retirement planning. And most millennials think they are young forever. True. They forget that retirement date is around the corner. Precisely. Yes. I'm glad you bring that factor up, because there's so much to consider with millennials, and perhaps if you can explain to us the two products that I've heard of that are quite essential for millennials, which is income protection, because the mere fact that you're working and able to generate an income is quite important, and God forbid, but should anything happen to you, that will be jeopardized. And again, the retirement savings aspect that you brought up, which is quite critical, because we all know the sooner you start, the better in the long term. So are those some of the balances that millennials need to find? Short-term appropriate cover, meanwhile maintaining long-term financial objectives. Very much so. Assuming a millennium is employed by an employer who's got a risk cover scheme, where income protection plan is part of that, it would be essential for a certified financial planner to have a conversation with the millennium to have a holistic financial plan, which looks into your risk cover. Have you got adequate income protection plan? Should you be disabled during your working life? Do you have sufficient death cover should the unfortunate happen? So a certified financial plan will have a holistic look at different phases of your life. So it will be like a lifestyle kind of arrangement that you will be having. Exactly, and something that we've also discussed on the show previously, as you say, the lifestyle and adapting your financial plan. Millennials, I'm sure within 10 years, their lives might change from being the party-going 20-year-old who left the club at 4 o'clock in the morning to perhaps married and a parent to 2 children. So how critical is it as well to engage with a millennial on some of those changes that might take place in their lives? For sure. It's very critical to have a financial strategy and a financial plan in place, so that you can remove the emotions of chopping and changing products from one product to the next. And if you don't have a financial plan, you might find yourself maybe over-insured or under-insured, or having more product that is not really suitable to your lifestyle or to your particular phase of life. So having a certified financial planner holding your hand as you mature is quite critical. Very important, clearly. Sydney, I also want to take advantage of the fact that clearly as a CFP professional, you must have interacted with a lot of millennials, and if there are particular highlights or stories that come to mind regarding your interactions with them, and also how well millennials actually do in sticking and staying the course with a financial plan. Sure. Yeah, we've got experiences of sandwich individuals, sandwich generation, we call them sandwich generation. Yes, and those individuals who take care not only of their children, but their parents as well. Yeah, very much. So we see a trend of sandwich generation. So a couple of them have got that kind of a challenge. And again, it goes back to prioritizing. Even though you know you need to take care of your siblings and perhaps your parents, you also need to take care of your own financial journey and try to balance the two. So the greatest example is of those millennials who still have to take care of their siblings. And again, it all goes back to having a responsible plan in place and ensuring that you rebalance each and every year, so every year or every second year, to ensure that you are in line with your financial goals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Goodness, well, the dynamics that millennials are facing are quite wide and very substantially so, but all the more important for us to get a quick recap now on some of the key takeaway points from tonight's discussion. Sydney, we've certainly said quite a bit about millennials who are known for being flashy individuals and quite a fay with handling their money. But what are the critical elements that millennials need to bear in mind when it comes to making sure they will be financially fit not only now, but in the future too?
Very much so. The Financial Planning Institute recommends an easy money 1, 2, 3 principle. The first principle being going back to minimizing your debt. And secondly, the culture of saving, and saving for mostly emergency. So you have emergency fund in place. And thirdly, invest. And we also at Financial Planning Institute are running a financial planning week where millennials can actually call our offices to have financial planning clinics in their workplace, where we provide free financial planning advice for this week. So each year we have a financial planning week taking place.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Hopefully all the millennials listening and watching to the show will heed the call and definitely participate. But Sydney, thank you so much for your time today, as always. Money management clearly for millennials and making sure that they stick onto the financial route of financial success. A big thank you once more to Sydney Sekese, who's a certified financial planning professional from the Financial Planning Institute, also referred to as FPI, for joining us this evening. Well, you in the meantime, especially if you're a millennial that's watching the show, get in touch with us and tell us what some of your major money challenges are, and hopefully we'll be able to source some solutions for you. You can tweet us at CNBC Africa using the hashtag Finance410, or to myself at Gugulethu. Until next time, happy money making to all you millennials.